The story begins in the land of Oz, where Glinda tells everyone that the Wicked Witch of the West has been defeated. Hearing this, the people celebrate. A little girl then asks Glinda why evil exists in this world and whether the witch was truly wicked. Lost in memories, Glinda recalls the past. Once, the governor left for work, and in his absence, his wife had an affair with a salesman. 9 months later, she gave birth to a baby girl with green skin, shocking everyone. They named her Elphaba. Whenever Elphaba cried, objects would float in the air, revealing her magical powers. The governor decided not to raise her and entrusted her to a bear, asking it to take care of her. The bear lovingly raised Elphaba. Sometime later, the governor's wife gave birth to another daughter, but she was unable to walk. The two sisters remained close. Years passed, and one day, when Elphaba was with her younger sister, some children began to bully them. Enraged, she used her magical powers to lift small stones and hurl them at the bullies, scaring them away. The story returns to the present, where the villagers have built a massive effigy of Elphaba, which Glinda sets ablaze. Just then, a girl asks Glinda, "Was Elphaba your friend?" The story then flashes back to the past. Glinda arrives at college with all her belongings. This college teaches magical arts. Elphaba also arrives, but the students are terrified, as they have never seen someone with green skin before. The governor had enrolled his younger daughter, who cannot walk, in this college. Before leaving, he gives her their mother's sandals, as she has passed away. He tells Elphaba to stay with her sister. Everyone gathers in the assembly hall, where the principal welcomes the new students and explains the rules. Later, as Elphaba takes her sister to her room, the headmistress arrives and insists on taking the younger sister with her. Elphaba refuses, but when the headmistress doesn't listen, she gets angry and accidentally uses her powers, causing objects to float in the air. Her sister returns to her side, frightening the other students. Just then, the principal arrives and reassures everyone, saying there is nothing to fear. She orchestrates everything. She does not want anyone to know about Elphaba's powers yet. The principal then asks who would like to share a room with Elphaba. Glinda raises her hand, hoping to impress the principal and secure a spot in her seminar. The principal takes Elphaba aside and asks how she did all that. Elphaba responds that she doesn't know, it just happens when she gets angry. The principal assures Elphaba that she will teach her to control her powers, which makes Elphaba very happy. She then heads to her room, where Glinda is already present. Glinda tries to flaunt her wealth, which Elphaba dislikes. They do not get along at all. Now, they attend their science class, taught by a goat professor. The students don't want to study, so they mock him by writing something on the board. This angers the professor, and he orders everyone to leave the class. All the students leave except for Elphaba, who remains seated. The professor tells her that she should also go with her friends. Elphaba replies, "I have no friends here." Hearing this, the professor feels bad and says, "From now on, I am your friend." He understands that the other students dislike her because of her green skin. Later, Elphaba visits the principal to practice controlling her magic. Despite repeated attempts, she fails. However, when she gets angry over a conversation about animals, the windows shatter, and a coin in the room starts floating. This means her magic works when she is angry. The principal tells her, "You have great power, but you must learn to control your anger, only then can you use your powers properly." That night, Elphaba notices that her science professor, the goat, is leaving the university. She secretly follows him to a house where other animal teachers are gathered. The professor tells them, "Some people don't want us to teach here, and many of our colleagues have disappeared. If we don't act, we will all be wiped out." Elphaba overhears everything, and just then, everyone notices her. She steps forward and asks, "Is it true that some people want to drive you away?" The professor replies, "Yes, some want to take away our rights." Learning this truth deeply saddens Elphaba, as she was raised by a bear. As she walks back to her room, she sees a prince on horseback. The prince is startled upon seeing Elphaba, as he has never seen a green-skinned person before. Elphaba reassures him, "I am human, just like you." The prince has come to enroll in college, and when the news spreads, everyone, including Glinda, tries to impress him. Glinda dresses up beautifully and approaches the prince, eager to charm him. She tells him, "There's a party at the college tonight. I want you to dance with me." The prince agrees. A boy approaches Glinda, asking if he can go to the dance with her, but she redirects him to Elphaba's younger sister. The two of them are delighted. Later, in Glinda's room, she finds a strange cap. Her friend asks, "Whose cap is this?" Glinda smirks and says, "You'll see." Just then, Elphaba enters. Glinda invites her to the party and insists that she wear the cap. At night, the party begins. Glinda and the prince dance together, getting closer. As they dance, the principal arrives and hands Glinda a wand, saying, "Starting tomorrow, you will train with me. I will teach you magic." Glinda is overjoyed, this is what she has always dreamed of. The principal then reveals, "Elphaba requested this for you." Elphaba arrives at the party wearing the strange cap Glinda gave her. Everyone laughs at her, but she ignores them and starts dancing. Her dance is unusual, and people mock her. Glinda doesn't like this. She realizes that Elphaba has always been kind to her. She joins Elphaba and encourages her to follow her dance moves. Elphaba follows, and soon, all the students join in. Elphaba feels happy, and the two become close friends, resolving their past differences. The next day, during their science class, soldiers arrive and take the professor away by force. Elphaba tries to stop them, but they don't listen. A new professor replaces him and brings a caged lion cub. Elphaba remembers what her previous professor told her, that animals lose their ability to speak when caged. She becomes furious, causing flowers in the room to float and release a scent that makes all the students faint, except for the prince. Elphaba and the prince free the lion cub and take it to the jungle. There, they argue about something, and in the heat of the moment, Elphaba grabs the prince's hand. She has begun to like him. She knows the prince will never marry her. Meanwhile, in the classroom, the principal arrives and sees the unconscious students and teacher. She realizes this was Elphaba's doing, her powers have grown too strong. She writes a letter to a powerful wizard living in the Emerald City. The next day, Elphaba receives a message from Emerald City, the great wizard she was summoned by has invited her. Overjoyed, she prepares to leave. A train arrives, and students, including the prince and Glinda, gather to say goodbye. Glinda confesses that her relationship with the prince has changed, which unsettles Elphaba. Before boarding, Glinda gives Elphaba a letter, revealing she also wants to visit Emerald City. Moved, Elphaba pulls Glinda onto the train with her. Upon arrival, a chimpanzee escorts them to a grand chamber. There, they see a giant talking face, leaving them in awe. When Elphaba introduces herself, a wizard emerges. It was he who summoned her. He shows her a model of Emerald City's future and asks for her input to improve it. Elphaba suggests filling the streets with light, and the wizard follows her idea. He then gifts her a small statue and tells her that, one day, she will rule the entire city. The wizard tells Elphaba she will rule, but she refuses. She wants to help the animals instead. The principal arrives, and Elphaba is thrilled. The wizard then reveals a magical book with powerful spells that no one has ever read. He asks Elphaba to recite a spell, claiming it will give wings to the chimpanzee before them, fulfilling its lifelong wish to fly. Elphaba reads the spell, and the chimpanzee begins growing wings, but the transformation is painful. Disturbed, she asks the principal how to stop it. The principal coldly tells her not to interfere. Outside, Elphaba sees more chimpanzees growing wings in agony. The principal admits they want the flying monkeys for espionage. Realizing the wizard and principal are conspiring, Elphaba understands that the missing university animals were abducted under their orders. Determined to stop them, she steals the magical book and runs. Furious, the principal orders the winged monkeys to capture Elphaba or face their families' deaths. Forced to obey, they take flight. Meanwhile, Elphaba and Glinda prepare to escape in a hot air balloon as the winged monkeys close in. They try to escape, but before the balloon can take off, the wizard locks the entire place, trapping it. The balloon bursts, but before they get hurt, they escape just in time. They rush into a room where Glinda tries to convince Elphaba that everything happening is for their own good. However, Elphaba refuses to accept this. She loves animals, having been raised by a bear, and understands their suffering. She explains to Glinda that the wizard wants to imprison and torture animals. Meanwhile, soldiers approach. Elphaba reads a spell from the magic book, and suddenly, a broom falls before her and begins floating. Glinda gives her a cloak that suits her perfectly. Just then, the soldiers enter and capture Glinda. Before they can grab Elphaba, she shatters the window and jumps out, clutching the magical flying broom, but she doesn't know how to use it and starts falling. Seeing her reflection in the glass, she envisions her younger self, who tells her, "Don't be afraid, be capable, believe in yourself." Gaining confidence, she takes control of the broom and starts soaring over the city. The flying monkeys chase her, but she directs them toward the soldiers, causing chaos. Her power darkens the entire city, weakening the wizard. With newfound strength, she flies westward, while the principal takes Glinda. She takes Glinda with her, making it seem like the principal has convinced Glinda to join her side. And with that, the story comes to an end. This was the first part of the story. Whenever the second part is released, we will definitely explain it.